Hey, it's A Humble Collector here, and today's video we're going to take a look at the 2-panel death card of Franz Nirschl. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. And this actually marks the 300th World War II German death card video that I've done. It's kind of crazy to think that I've done that many. When I started doing these videos back in like 2017, I never thought that I'd have this many cards or be able to go into the level of detail I am now. And thank you guys for letting me share this, collecting with you. I love getting comments from you guys, the information that you're sometimes able to provide me. It's all really helpful, and it's a lot of fun, really. And I did post a poll a few months ago asking what we should do for the 300th World War II death card video. And you guys overwhelmingly voted for a card tied to a penal unit, which actually worked out well because I actually had a card for a penal unit lined up to go in the slot for the month. So I just ended up, moving things around. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So going from the top of the card here, in God's holy peace rests far away in foreign soil Soldat Franz Nirschl, who died a heroic death in a heavy naval battle in the Aegean Sea, Greece, on October 7th, 1943, at the age of 36. Now, as mentioned earlier, I know that Franz was in a penal unit because I was actually able to find his casualty record. He was born on September 10th, 1907 in Deggendorf, and was a member of the 2nd Company, 2nd Battalion of Festungs Infantry Battalion 999. Now, what is a 999 unit? Now, you actually have a couple different kinds of penal units in the German Army. You have some like ZBV 300 and 500 series penal units, and those units are generally for people in the military that are serving a sentence that's limited to a couple months. And the thought is that once they're done serving in these units, they'll be able to go back to their original units, fully honor restored, everything there. So this is for soldiers that are, convicted of like minor crimes or crimes that aren't considered like character breaking. So say, for example, you get drunk on duty or something like that. That could be something that, you end up getting sent to a penal unit for a couple months. The 999 units are different. So the 999 penal units, 999 penal units, are specifically for second-class soldiers. So these are men that are basically considered worthless by the German military. So the criminals in these units are guys that committed very severe crimes while in the military. So, for example, disobeying a direct order from a superior officer, assaulting a superior officer, something of that sort could get you sent to a 999 unit. The other interesting thing about these units, though, is that there are civilian criminals that are transferred into these units. I do use the term criminal here rather loosely because a lot of the crimes that could get you sent to a 999 unit are things that, we wouldn't really see as crimes today. For example, if you were working against the Nazi regime, that would get you sent to a 999 unit if you didn't get, just straight up executed. I was reading through a forum, and apparently there was one guy that was saying that he had heard of a individual that was caught listening to like the BBC, an illegal radio broadcast, and they ended up getting assigned to like a multi-year term in a 999 unit. So you have those kinds of criminals, but you also have people that did things like looting or crimes of a very violent or sexual nature, that kind of thing. So because of that, you have a very wide range of soldiers in these units. And unfortunately, there's not a ton of documentation. I did actually find there is, oddly enough, a movie that came out in the 50s in West Germany called Strafbattalion 999 that kind of follows one of these units. And basically, it's actually a pretty good watch. It's a little hard to find in English, but if you can find a copy, I highly recommend it. Because it shows a lot of cool things there you don't normally see in a World War II movie. We actually see a German military chaplain at one point, which I thought was just super cool because it's one of my areas of interest. But because these men are criminals, second-class soldiers as it were, their lives are fully expendable. Now, the movie claims that these 999 units had like a 95% casualty rate. I don't know how correct that is. I wasn't able to find any like scholarly numbers tied to that. If anybody has any, please let me know. But these guys were given jobs like digging trenches that are in range of Soviet artillery that are out in the open, clearing minefields, reconnaissance missions that have very low chances of survival. Basically, anything that was considered too dangerous or foolhardy to send a normal German unit into, that's where the 999 units would come in. Now, the particular unit that Franz was attached to here, Festungs Infantry Battalion 999, was a little bit interesting because this penal unit was actually part of Fortress Infantry Regiment 965, which was subordinated to the 41st Fortress Division. So, unlike a lot of these penal units that see brutal combat on the Eastern Front, these guys are actually stationed on an island down in the Aegean Sea. Now, what ends up happening is that their unit ends up getting pulled for Operation Leopard, which is going to be the German seizure of the island of Leros. So what has happened at this point in the war, Italy has tried to surrender. Germany's basically come in and seized Italy and Italian territory. And as a result, they're having to shuffle troops around all over the place. So this fortress unit gets thrown onto a convoy, and they're getting sent up to Leros. So what happens is on the night of October 6th through 7th, this convoy consisting of auxiliary submarine chaser UJ-2111, the cargo ship Olympus, and 7 naval landing craft are heading up to Leros when they are ambushed by several vessels of the Royal Navy. Now, specifically, they are attacked by HMS Sirius and HMS Penelope, which are cruisers, as well as HMS Faulkner and HMS Fury, which are destroyers. And this Royal Navy unit comes across them in the Stampolia Channel. And you can probably imagine what happens next. I mean, we're talking about one of the best navies in the world, 2 destroyers, 2 cruisers going up against an auxiliary submarine chaser, a cargo ship, and a couple of landing craft. The convoy gets completely decimated. Only one of the landing craft manages to escape. Everything else is sunk. And it is during this engagement that Franz is killed. Now, surprisingly, his body was actually recovered. It's a bit unclear if he was on this landing craft that made it out, or perhaps his body washed ashore on one of the islands later. But he was buried in the Dionysus Rapenza Military Cemetery, Crypt 3, Row 14, and he's noted on Plate 2 there. And before we continue on with the translation of the card, I guess one final note. I'm a bit unclear if Franz was in the military prior to being sent to this 999 unit, or if he was a civilian. I believe he was a civilian because per his casualty record here, he was actually in a 999 training unit as his prior unit prior to joining this Festungs Infantry Battalion. So that seems to tell me that maybe he completed his basic training more or less in the penal system, which would lead me to believe he's a civilian. What his crime was, I have no idea. I couldn't find anything. That being said, I don't know enough about the system to say that definitively, so I'd definitely be curious to hear what you guys think down below. And moving to the very bottom of the card here, you gave your young blood for the fatherland as a German hero. You will live on with us forever. Rest in peace on the distant battlefield. And moving to the back here, we have a very nice HCOM 109 backing with just his name and his date of death on the cross there. And then down at the very bottom, you will remain unforgettable to us. So yeah, fascinating card. Interestingly enough, I have a different penal unit that we'll be talking about later this month. This one's a specialized ZBV unit, so they were definitely treated a little bit better than a 999 unit would have been. So definitely, keep an eye out for that. That should be in the next week or so. I think that one's going up. But yeah, just fascinating card. Really want to thank you guys for letting me do this as long as I have been. The channel's grown a lot since I started back in 2017. And even if I didn't have the subscriber count that I do now, I'd still be doing these videos. But it really does mean a lot to me that you guys watch them and engage with them. And gives me a chance to kind of talk about some of the things that I'm researching in my collection. So just thank you all again. I hope you guys have been enjoying Stair Build September. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of the month. Thank you all for watching. Happy collecting. And I will see you all again very soon.